Hey guys, it's Justin. I'm coming back with another video on my series of need to know information through ROTC. This one's going to be focused on need to know information for your MS3 year. So as I said in the previous video, every time you go up in grade, you're going to have to know the cumulative information from the last two. So being an MS3 means you should know your MS2 and MS1 information. So that being said, I do have videos linking what you should learn in those 2 years, the most important things, but I'm going to briefly summarize them in this video just in case you don't want to take a look at those. So for your MS1 video, you want to make sure you know uniform, DNC, PRTs, and you know how to get fit. MS2 year, basic TLPs or troop-leading procedures, ownership, how to learn, communication, and back briefs. For your MS3 year, this year is going to be your most important year when it comes to preparing yourself for advanced camp. Advanced camp is the training assessment following your junior year. It's the only commissioning requirement as far as training goes outside of what you do in ROTC during the school year. So advanced camp is at Fort Knox, Kentucky. It's about 30 to 37 days now because it was recently extended. And it's going to be a pretty tough test that tests your tactical knowledge, your leadership ability, and your general Army knowledge as well. So I've broken up the MS3 year into 8 subcategories of what I think are the most important. But I want to make sure that I specify that these might not be the most important to everyone. These are just what I found important when I went to camp, when I went through my MS3 year. These are the things that stuck out to me as being the most practical. I did do well at camp. I received an O on my COER at the end of the training opportunity. So I do think that I have some valuable input to give you guys. Without further ado, I'm going to go into it. So first off is tactics. I kind of neglected to mention these in my other 2 videos, and that's because until your junior year, you're not really leading missions. So oftentimes you just need to know your basic soldier tasks, so how to crawl, how to move, how to fire from cover. But until your junior year, you don't really need to know how to direct people because you will always be directed by a junior or a senior leading the lane. That being said, these are the main missions that you're going to have to focus on: ambush, attack, recon, movement to contact, and defense. So those are pretty much all the missions you will ever see at camp, with different variations. They're also the main missions that you're going to do in the Army. So that being said, make sure you're studying up on those using the Ranger Handbook and Infantry Tactics Handbook. So the Ranger Handbook isn't technically doctrine, but it is what a lot of cadre members will use to assess you on. So for example, there are different procedures listed out in the Ranger Handbook, exactly such as who to take with you on a leader's recon during a mission. So I would use those as references and make sure that you have a written down checklist for yourself using the Ranger Handbook whenever you go to lead a mission. Okay, next is back planning missions. So going along with tactics, you want to learn how to back plan. And back planning is a concept that I didn't really get introduced to until I got to ROTC, but it makes a lot of sense. And basically what back planning is that, let's say someone gives you a mission of completing a task no later than 1700. So instead of taking time and saying at 0800 this is what I'm going to do, at 0900 this is what I'm going to do, and trying to plan forward, they actually find that it's a little bit easier to plan backwards. So if your mission is an ambush and you know you need to, the very last thing you're going to do as part of your mission is getting off the objective and pulling your demolition team, you need to make sure that you have demolition teams set and ready to go by 1655 if you have to be done with the mission by 1700. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go backwards from how you would carry out the mission and start at your end time so that you know when you actually need to start your mission and start your movement. If you start with the beginning of the process, then you might run into a little bit of time conflict because you don't know exactly when you need to start unless you have the full plan written out already. So going backwards allows you to be more productive with your time management. Next, I have adjusting time hacks. So this is important, and it's something you should start practicing as a team leader, but it's extremely relevant as a PL/PSG squad leader when you start serving in those roles, because sometimes your leadership will give you a time hack, and let's say you need to get expected accountability for an event by 1600. If you need to get expected accountability by 1600 for your boss, then you need to get expected accountability from your subordinates by 1500. So you want to adjust the timeline to make sure that you add a little bit of buffer time every time you're going through a level of the chain of command. And that's basically to say that you want to make sure that you give them time just in case they don't accomplish the mission. You want to allow a little bit of buffer so that you can help intervene. That being said, adjusting time hacks is a skill, because if your boss gives you 3 days to complete an assignment and then you give your subordinates 2 days to complete the assignment, they give their subordinates 1 day to complete the assignment, and then all of a sudden when you get down to the lowest level of the chain of command, they're getting 5 minutes to do the task. It's not fair to them. So you want to make sure that you are adjusting time hacks appropriately. And what I like to do in my leadership style is that I always ask my subordinates if that's a reasonable time hack for them. So I try to adjust it as far forward as possible so that we get the task done sooner than later. But then I also make sure that it's reasonable for them, because if it's not a reasonable time hack for them and they're just going to fail, not only does that reflect on me as a negative aspect to my leadership, but it also makes them feel like they're incompetent. And that might not be the case. It might just be because you're setting them up to fail. So adjusting time hacks is one major thing that you should work on as an MS3. Next, how to write an op board. And I'm actually going to make a very specific video for how to write an op board. It's probably going to be like 30 minutes, maybe even an hour long, because it is one of the most important skills you're going to need to learn in ROTC that's going to develop throughout your time as an officer. So as soon as you hit your PL years, your captain years, company commander, you're going to have to write op boards, and especially on the staff, you're going to write extensive op boards. So I say that because it starts in ROTC. You get a basic understanding of what it is, the 5 paragraphs, you know what's important info for each one, and this is where you start developing that skill. Next, I have cadence and platoon marching. So one of the things you're assessed on at camp, and you're going to be judged on, your NCOs, your privates are going to judge you on when you actually become a PL or a company commander, is how well you can do D&C. So I did mention that as an MS1 you want to make sure you have a good understanding of D&C, but when I say that, I meant doing the facing maneuvers, actually listening to commands. But as an MS3, you're the one that's going to be giving the commands. So you should have had practice by your MS3 year of leading at least one PT session where you'll be giving commands to a formation, but it's a little bit harder than just giving commands to a formation when you're actually trying to march people, and then also when you're calling cadences. So you don't have to know very many cadences, but you should know at least 1 or 2 in the back of your head to be able to pull out at any time. That includes both marching and running cadences. Next, I have rucking and a 270 plus on the APFT. So I hit upon it in another video, and I'm going to hit it again. Physical fitness is paramount for ROTC, and not only because it goes directly into your OMS or your your merit score at the end of your sessions process, but also because it's extremely important for being able to function in a field environment. And I say that because a 270 on your APFT is general fitness. It's good for you. It's how you stay healthy. But your ability to ruck is completely different than that. So your ability to run 2 miles, do push-ups and sit-ups is going to help you out in a general sense. But whenever you're in the field and you're doing real tactical missions, you're going to be carrying a ruck on your back that could weigh up to 60, 70 pounds. And so you need to start practicing rucking at any time possible. So a good standard to reach for is having a 35-pound ruck on, being able to do 12 miles in under 3 hours. So the Army standard is 4 hours, but you should really be shooting as an officer to try to hit under 3 hours. Next, moving forward, troop leading procedures advanced. So I said basic troop leading procedures as an MS2. As a junior, you're going to really want to try to hone in on these skills and learn them to a T. So you should have them memorized. You should be able to write them down. Anyone should be able to ask you, what's the 5th step? And you should be able to say, oh, it's this. Because that's everything that you're going to be doing in the field. And it's basically going to be, you get a mission, an ambush mission, attack, recon, whatever, and you're going to be going through the TLPs and explaining them not only to your subordinates, but also making sure that you understand, making sure that you demonstrate your understanding of them to your superior officer that's grading you. And then lastly, I have the ability to assess strengths and weaknesses in others. And so this was something that I didn't really understand until I got into my junior and senior year, and that is that whenever you're assigning task and purpose to people, especially in op boards, you want to try to pair people up with their strengths. So if you know that you have a PT stud on your one squad, and you're planning to do a really outrageous flank that's going to take probably 15 minutes. It's going to be like a mile long, and they have to hump 60 pounds of weight all the way around an objective. You might not want to put the guy that fell out of the last ruck march on that assaulting team. So being able to assess the strengths and weaknesses in others means that you are just pairing people's strengths up to help you accomplish the mission. So those that are good at pulling security, you should put them on security. Those that are good at making flanking maneuvers, those that are good at, just firing the 240s or 249s on the suppressing line, you should put them with your support team if you can. So making sure that you can assess the ability of your soldiers is an paramount skill that you're going to learn during your junior year, and that you should continue to use for when you plan things in the future throughout your senior year and beyond. A couple things I didn't mention that I wanted to give honorable mentions to are Army forms. And what I say by this is that at this point you're probably going to have to learn how to do CPRs, or cadet payment requests, if you're scholarshiped, and you're going to have to learn how to do COERs, OERs, 4856s, DRAs. So all of these forms that are kind of thrown at you and you briefly look at as a sophomore, freshman, and you just see them come down, you're going to want to learn how to do. So 4856s are going to be your developmental counseling form. And so if you have a mentorship chain of command, then this is going to be the time that you're going to use those, and you're going to work on basically counseling your subordinates and receiving counseling from your superiors. So this is how we create attainable goals in the Army, and that's going to be a way to measure success and progress as a leader too. So you're going to be counseling, when you commission and become a platoon leader eventually, you will be counseling your squad leaders, you'll be counseling your platoon sergeant. So developing your ability to complete the 4856 and do it well is going to be starting in your sophomore and junior year, more specifically your junior year. DRAs, or deliberate risk assessments, are going to be another form that you're going to start filling out, and they go hand in hand with CONOPS, concept of operations, and OPORDs. So these forms that you fill out basically are going to be a way of signifying risk in an event. And then finally, COERs, or Cadet Officer Evaluation Reports, are going to be something that you fill out so that your PMS, your Professor of Military Science, and your PMI, or Professor of Military, your PMI are going to be able to look at and assess you at the end of your sessions process. So if you have any questions, let me know in your comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you like this video, if it helped you out. I will be making future videos about each of these topics because they are very important. So stay tuned for those, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks, guys. Bye.